So, welcome everyone. Today, another mail from David with a question. So he writes, I hope this finds you well. In your Power of Prayer podcast, you talk about dwelling in negative states and how it can pull us into an existence which corresponds with these. You also mention, while not the goal of the spiritual path, it can be helpful to manifest more positive states. Can you expand on how to change or reprogram negative states of mind to help us on the path? So that's the first question. So yeah, I've mentioned that if your mind is predominantly very negative, so it holds on to negative ways of thinking about yourself, about other people around you, about the world, then it gives rise to an experience which is colored by this way of receiving you're experiencing. So this negative thinking or a negative mindset is basically a bit like a stained mirror. Then whatever it reflects, it would appear to be stained. So you have, for example, some dirt spots on the mirror, and then you look into the mirror and the spots actually appear to be in your face, but actually they're on the mirror. So similarly, when our mind is in a negative state, then also it's not really the world that's the problem, but it's the way we are receiving the world, the way we are perceiving the world, the way it appears in our mind. It gets colored by our mind. Okay? So, and if it is colored by our mind in a negative way, basically if we are experiencing the world in a negative way, then we are responding to it in a negative way also, habitually. That is the problem with it. If we would notice that, the world is appearing to me merely in a negative way, it actually isn't negative or positive, it is just appearing to me that way, then we can break that cycle right there. But for most of us, the world appears negative and we think that's the way the world actually is. And then we interact with the world. We interact with other people, we interact with things, even with ourselves. We're interacting based on this idea that this stuff around me is so negative, or I am so negative, when it's just appearing that way actually. So similarly, then when you are reacting to the world based on your negative perception of it, then the world will respond again to your reaction. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. It goes around and around and around. So that's why people who are having a predominantly negative mindset have also predominantly negative experiences and respond negatively to those experiences. And then of course there is results and so forth. So this is basically a cycle of karma. Karma means nothing but action. And of course all of our actions are based on how we perceive things, how we perceive the world. They're based on intent. Intent is also based on how we perceive the world. And that is also true for positive states. So if your mind is predominantly positive, you're seeing the world in a positive light, and you're responding to the world in a positive way, the world answers back positively. It's pretty simple actually. That is not necessarily so, however. You might have a very negative mindset and you meet a person with a very positive mindset. Now maybe the person with the positive mindset is a very strong positive person. Then it might influence the way you are negative in a positive way. So it's very complex. It's not only just the way I perceive the world, but it's also the way people around you perceive the world. So we can never for 100% certainty say, well, it's only up to my perception and my experience of the world. If my experience is good, then the whole world becomes good. It's not really like that. So there is enough people with very negative mindsets, and they will still go around and kill others and rob and steal and rape and whatnot. It doesn't change just because you're seeing the world in a good way. Yeah. So you personally might, however, benefit from whatever situation that is presented to you due to your positive mindset. And then respond to it positively. That is possible. That doesn't mean that the world in itself is necessarily always positive or always negative. Positive needs the negative also. The good needs the bad. Otherwise we wouldn't understand what it means, right? We wouldn't know what it means, light, if we wouldn't know the opposite of light. We wouldn't know what it is. Negative thinking. We wouldn't know what negative thinking is if there wasn't any contrast to it, like positive thinking. Yes. So, also it is very important to recognize and notice that the positive also always comes together with the negative. Positive and negative, they are not two things. It's one process. And it is one state basically changing into the other. Have you ever seen the waveform of an audio file on a computer? When you record something with your voice, then you have these kind of little waves on a computer. So experiencing is like that. It's like a wave. So you cannot really say that there is the positive wave and there is the negative wave. It's one line that connects all these ups and downs. So this one line only becomes efficient if it vibrates fast. It's this one line of vibration. Like breathing in and breathing out. They're not two things. They are interdependent. It's in fact just one process. Like life and death, good and bad, breathing in, breathing out. All of that is very much the similar thing. That's why I say also, it's not really the goal of the spiritual path to make everything positive or to make everything appear positive. Besides, that is not possible also. Then we would demand some sort of kind of superhuman experience, meaning that we are trying to only have positive experiences. The world is not like that. It's not only just positive. Even if you try very hard to make everything just only positive, you will still have nasty experiences. And why is that so? Well, because it's the nature of our life to be like that. It is, in other words, normal for there to be suffering. However, the way we relate to that suffering, that is quite twisted. We think, for example, that we should only be healthy all the time. But life is never like that. There is not one single person which is only healthy all the time. And we think things like, I should only be beautiful or handsome all the time. But it's not like that. There are many, many times during the day where we're not at all beautiful or handsome. These are the times that we spend behind closed doors usually. And so that no one sees us. So life is not like that. We are demanding too much from life. We're demanding it to always be right, always feel good, always be happy and positive. And so we are constantly busy, aka stressed, to try to make it good. So we are approaching life not aware, but more like a manager. Like someone that wants to be in control of life, that wants to kind of only have a certain type of experience. But that's very unrealistic. Life is not like that. Life is change. It means if you're having a great experience, it will come to an end. And it means if you have a terrible experience, it also will come to an end. It's a process. It means also that your terrible experience is based on the previous positive experience. And that previous positive experience is based on the previous negative experience, etc. It's endless. It's beginningless also. So this is not a real refuge. It's not a place where we can find true rest. When we're meditating, we're seeking for a space in which there is some true rest to be found. And true rest is not to be found in something that changes constantly. We cannot find anything solid there. So he asked, can you expand on how to change or reprogram negative states of mind to help us on the path? It's a valid question, though. So it is very important to be skillful with our mind, to be skillful with our body, to be skillful with our life. Otherwise, it's impossible for us to walk on the path of meditation. Let's say if our behavior is very coarse, very unrefined, we're walking around constantly getting into fights with other people, into arguments, constantly kind of clashing with others about politics, about opinions, about all this kind of stuff, then we don't have the necessary restful mindset which is beneficial for a meditator. It's pretty obvious, right? Also, you want to cultivate meditation, you want to be peaceful, happy and relaxed. But if the behavior goes into the other direction, such as following and cultivating drug addiction, or constantly getting drunk, or distracting ourselves constantly with smartphones, etc., it's not possible to develop and cultivate meditation like that. So we have to kind of establish some priorities on the path. It is also not a solution really to make the practice fit into our distracted lifestyle. So many people, they suggest, it might be good then to just only meditate like really, really shortly, and at least it's just something, but that will not really get you the results on a real spiritual path. So we have to establish some priorities, and the good news is it happens naturally for all of us to establish this priority. I want to meditate. I want to turn within and get to know myself. I want to find a center. I want to be peaceful and happy within myself, etc. Most people turn to meditation when their life offers them some turmoil that they cannot solve. So they turn within, which is like a blessing. And so it is important to change or reprogram negative states of mind. Once we become aware of a negative state of mind, let's say you're angry, and you become aware that you're angry, then it is clever and skillful to change that anger, for example, into kindness, to use the direct antidote. And so how could I do this? How could I change anger when it arises? The way I do it is, first of all, I simply acknowledge that there is anger. It's the first step always, it's mindfulness. Anger, there is anger, and anger is like this. And so I give my anger some space, first of all. Just let it dance. I don't command it in any way. I leave it alone. I just let myself be angry. That's the first step. So we are receiving the negative state within awareness. We make it known as it is, not as it should be. So you're just receiving it, okay? First step. Second step, once you have received it, then there is probably still the need to interact with our environment. So you still have to talk with your boss, you still have to talk with your colleague or your friend, So there is still the need for action in this world. Now, if that action would be based on anger, it would create more problem, much like a fire spreading from one house to the next. So when we recognize that there is a fire, we can extinguish it as fast as possible. We do that by awareness. So first we become mindful. It will cool down the anger significantly. Now, once it has cooled down a little bit, then we can engage, for example, and do reflections on the other person. Look, the other person also wants to be just happy, just the same way I want to be happy. The other person doesn't want to suffer, just the same way I don't want to suffer. And based on such reflections, if you do that repeatedly, you get more and more skillful with that. So you can provoke the feeling of understanding. Understanding is the base for kindness. So you're understanding the other person, you see, okay, this other person is doing it because they want to be happy. They are shouting at me because they want to be obviously understood. Just like me, I also want to be understood. I also want to be right. I want to be loved. I want to be appreciated by others. So we're all the same in that regard, pretty much. We all want to be loved and appreciated and received by other people. Nobody wants to be neglected and pushed out of a group. So based on this understanding, we can relate to the other person. And then we relate to the other person in a way much like you would to a friend. You understand, well, this is like a brother or a sister in suffering. We're both getting old, we're both are subject to illness, and we're both are going to die and lose everything that is dear to us. And therefore, we can kind of make steps towards more peace and see if there is a possible solution and so forth. That requires training and habituation. So this only grows if you're doing it repeatedly. Expecting that to work right out of the box, it doesn't. You have to start making it work. So if there are people who are annoying you or nasty with you, it's a very good training ground. These are your real teachers. You don't need to go and look in the forests for like great teachers. Don't need to go to the caves to find fantastic like ascetic monks who are practicing for a long, long time. That's not necessary. The real teachers are people who make you upset, and people who make you hold, or make you tense. These are the people who show you that there is stuff to be learned from life. So yes, it is very skillful to change negative states. You can change anger into kindness, you change cruelty into compassion, you can change a jealousy into being happy for other people having success and being right. You know, all this is very skillful. It's skillful because it is the cause of happiness. If you're happy, it's easy to meditate. That's the right way around. Many people think I just have to make myself meditate diligently, then I will be happy later. This is not the right way. The right way is you need to be happy so you have enough energy to meditate. And this energy then deepens your practice and makes it much deeper. So the way you behave in daily life, what you say, what you do, how you think even about other people can be changed, can be reprogrammed. Fortunately, we are all able to learn. And there are many techniques that help us to learn. There's hypnosis, there is auto-suggestion, there's visualization, there's all these kind of tools that you can use to change the way you think. If you recognize that your thinking is harmful for yourself and other people around you, then it's very clever to change that. However, that cannot be the end goal because it's still subject to change. So it's not ultimate peace. So here's a second question. In particular, can you speak to the notions which seem to be contradicting each other? For example, the truth of, I am not my thoughts, they come and go. Yet, we become what we think, and that is changeable. If I want to be more confident, loving, kind, patient, etc., I can manifest that. Conversely, if I choose to focus on the negative, I can stew in it. So here there seems to be this contradiction between the doer and the knower. The doer is then I become what I think, and that is changeable, etc. And the knower would be, I am not my thoughts, they come and go. So there are two facets of our mind. You have this facet of the mind which is simply knowing things, recognizing truth, and you have a facet of the mind which is doing things, which is taking care of your life's business. All right? The doer is what is conditioned. And so we can condition the doer. We can condition the active part of you. That which is actively interacting with things. That can be conditioned. So for example, what you hear in this talk is already conditioning your way of thinking. It might condition anger or resistance. It might condition understanding. It might condition all kinds of mental states. Maybe fun or whatever. So knowing that states and circumstances are conditioning our mind, we should make use of that truth. Then associate with the right people, associate with positive people, associate with people who are mastering their mind, who are on the path, who have mastered the path, who are people who are highly inspiring. Because it conditions the way you are, the way you think, the way you act and talk. It comes from associating with people who have accomplished what you want to accomplish. So that's one very important point. Associate with people who have what you don't have yet. So eventually you adopt their habits. It colors off on you. However, in order to go deeper than just only managing life and just keeping the doer active, in order to really find a resting point and peace, we should gradually develop insight. Life is not just only about doing. There's another aspect of life which is completely neglected in our society, which is the aspect of knowing and being. We're all called human beings, right? We're called like that for a reason. Because we are here. Yet we never really recognize that. Instead, our cultural and social conditioning gives rise to thoughts such as, well, I'm here, but it could be better, or I could become someone better. I'm not good enough yet. I must change the way I think, the way I feel. I don't really appreciate myself the way I am, etc. That then gives rise to such questions like David has here. These questions such as, David here, he seems to be very interested in the particular part of cultivating, trying to change himself, trying to move out of the way he is towards a kind of a better David. And that is very similar to many, many people. Many people have that. We have this idea that the way I am is not good. And so I must change that. And it's not very kind. It's the premise that we have this idea that I'm flawed, I'm fundamentally flawed. And so I need to use all my knowing and my learning to fix the mess, to fix this stupid idiot that I am, and make it into some sort of God that is always happy, always positive, always have genius ideas, that is loved by everyone, received by everyone with just happiness and smiles. Wherever you go, everything is perfect, But life is not like that at all. The first fundamental truth the Buddha has taught and has seen for himself clearly is that there is suffering. And that suffering has its cause. And that's precisely the cause. The way we receive things in awareness. It's very critical. It's constantly trying to shift it around and make it better and so forth. So it keeps us busy our entire life long, guaranteed. You will always find something to make better. Therefore, it's okay. You can make things better. We need to have something to do in our life, right? So if you do something, let it come from kindness, from compassion, let it be good, beneficial for yourself and others. Yes. But don't get caught up in it, because it's endless. The doing is endless. You're never finished in life. The learning is endless. You can always get more books, more knowledge. The mind is never full. It's constantly changing. So maintain that perspective. You know, all right, it is good to develop goodness, but we shouldn't get caught up in it. That's very important. To also understand why not to get caught up in it. Yeah, well, because it's stressful. It's stressful to produce, it is stressful to maintain, and it is stressful when it fades. Goodness. However, we have to depend on goodness to live our life. There's no way around goodness either. So we have to cultivate, change our way of thinking, make it more positive. Change who we associate with. Spend time with wise, intelligent people who are mastering their life and mastering their mind. So it's not really a contradiction. I do agree it might appear that way, but it's not really a contradiction. It is more like leading into one another. You do good, and you change the way you perceive life, and you are more grateful and more kind and more outgoing, and you help each other and so forth. You work on your personality, and at the same time you realize the flaw on that. Each time you do something good, you also remember, well, this one depends on negativity. What I do right now, it depends on negativity. Doing something good depends on a problem. And it will just be another wave in that process that comes up and down. So it is wise to eat the right stuff, to sleep in a good way, to entertain yourself, not too much, not too little. All that is wise. It's good to lead your life in a good way, but there's far more than that. So before we die, we should find that which doesn't die. This is the task of life. And we can only find that if we do good, if we avoid bad, and if we purify the mind. Okay, we completely let go. This is an offering for reflection for today. I hope it is useful and inspiring in some way. If not, you just simply discard it. You let it go. And it's of no value, no importance. Are there any questions? No questions? All right then. Thank you very much for coming.